go ahead and get started. I've had a chance during the break to kind of scan over the questions a little bit more. Somebody asked about what is the advantage of a phased array radar versus the over horizon radars? Well, every radar is over the horizon. PAR phased array is over the horizon. Radar beams go out in a straight line. The surface of the Earth curves, so every radar has the horizon issue. So the advantage of phased array is the higher detail as far as how quickly we get images and full scans of the storm. The name of the app I mentioned earlier is MPing. That's MPING. If you Google MPing, it is from the National Severe Storms Laboratory. It is an app that lets you, for free and anonymously actually, report severe weather, hail, wind, ice, snow, sleet, whatever you want to report is on there. Somebody asked about who controls the sirens. Sirens are controlled by local government, so it's usually a city or a county emergency manager, a fire department, police department, some type of public safety agency almost always controls those sirens. Many of them are activated in response to National Weather Service warnings, but National Weather Service has no control over the sirens. Ham radio operators, somebody said don't forget the hams. Amateur radio operators are one part of the spotter population that's out there. Lots of our spotters are amateur radio operators, and those are very valuable assets for us for sure. Somebody asked, what's the best type of storm shelter, underground or a safe room above ground or an in-ground shelter? If you get a legitimate shelter from a reputable contractor, they're all good. I would put my family in an above ground safe room if it was built correctly to withstand any tornado. Those are, if they're built correctly and engineered properly, those are safe in any tornado. Had a meteorology student mention that they were impressed by another level of detail in the movie is when we see Kate go back home and she's in her barn looking through her old meteorology notebooks. Everything you see in those meteorology notebooks is real, legit meteorology notes. And they actually had students here from the building that actually transcribed some of the notes into those notebooks. So everything that you see in her notebooks, all the books that you see on her bookshelves in the barn and in her bedroom, those are all real meteorology textbooks, probably from people here in this building. And the notes that are in there are actually notes that meteorology students would take in some of these classes. And meteorology, a lot of people don't realize, people have asked, how do you get involved in meteorology? What if I want a career in meteorology? There's lots of different paths to take. There's lots of resources online that you can look at. But one of the things that, and this was a challenge for me because I wasn't that great in math, there was a ton of math in meteorology. That's not to scare people off. If I could do it, anybody can do it, but there's math, there's calculus, there's physics, there's differential equations. So when we're thumbing through Kate's notebooks in the movie and you see things, this gibberish that looks like foreign language, that's differential equations, that's calculus, that's the language of science and meteorology, and that's something that's a big part of being a meteorologist. Let's see, lots of people have asked, what do I do if I want a career in meteorology? We could do a whole separate presentation or webinar on that. To be a meteorologist, you can be a TV meteorologist, you can be a National Weather Service meteorologist, you can be a meteorologist that does research, you can be a meteorologist that works for a private company, that's in the military, that works for private industry to develop radars and things like that. There's just a wide range of careers out there if you're interested in weather. I would really encourage you to just get online and look at, just Google NOAA, N-O-A-A, careers in meteorology, or go to the University of Oklahoma and look at careers in meteorology. There's lots of information out there about it. There's certain courses you have to take to be a meteorologist with the government or with a TV station or with a research organization like the National Severe Storms Laboratory. One of the things I would encourage is, if you're anywhere near Norman, and in October we have a National Weather Festival that's every year, and this year it's going to be on Saturday, October 26th. It's a free open house where you can come and talk about twisters. You can come and see some of the meteorology students, talk about the radars, talk about storm chasing, weather balloons, all of that. So if you look up National Weather Festival, October 26th, that's in Norman. So that's a good opportunity to come visit with us here. I know the screen still says break. We're just talking here before we get started. Thank you. And one other thing, we had a question. Somebody asked about the Marietta tornado and said there was no warning for the Marietta tornado. The Marietta tornado that happened April 27th had 11 minutes tornado warning before that. So there was a tornado warning issued 11 minutes before the tornado began there in Marietta. So just to kind of clear that up. All right, keep the questions coming. We'll try our best to go over them as we can here. Okay, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the opening scene in the movie, the opening sequence, where our main characters, our four main characters that we know at that point in the movie, Kate, who's played by Daisy Edgar Jones, and actually five main characters, Jeb, who's her boyfriend, Addie, who's her friend, Praveen, they're all in the vehicle there that you see in the top left, and then Javi is back in another vehicle providing radar support on this chase. This is a chase that changes very, very quickly, where they think they have a pretty good idea what's going to happen, and things escalate super fast, and they become overwhelmed and caught essentially in an EF5 tornado. And this was one of the most controversial things that happened before the movie came out. When the trailer was released, they showed the scene where they're running to the overpass to take shelter, and meteorologists freaked out because you're not supposed to take shelter under an overpass. Spoiler alert, the movie shows you why you're not supposed to take cover under an overpass very dramatically and graphically. And this is one of the hardest scenes for me to watch. Still, I've seen the movie multiple times and I'm still uncomfortable watching it because it is very realistic and probably paints a fairly accurate picture of what would happen if you were under an overpass like this in a violent tornado. All right, let's see, get my screen to move here. So what's the big deal? Why are you not supposed to take shelter under an overpass or a bridge? Well, there's several misconceptions. The two images on the left are two of the big misconceptions. Number one is people think of a tornado as a vacuum cleaner hose. It's like it's moving across the countryside and it's sucking everything up. That's not really all a tornado does. And people think that if you get under a bridge or an overpass, that concrete and steel above you is going to prevent you from getting, quote, sucked up into the tornado. Well, that's not really what a tornado does. It's not a vacuum cleaner hose. All people also think that the wind is only inside the visible funnel. So the bottom left-hand image, people think that the wind is only in that pink shaded funnel and that there's no wind right outside of it. And that means there's no wind. If you're under the overpass, there's no wind where you are. Both of those are completely false. On the right-hand side is the truth. The winds in reality are stronger under the overpass or under the bridge. The higher above ground, and so the wind actually gets channeled or funneled. The wind tunnel effect going through that overpass actually causes the winds to blow stronger underneath the overpass. So when we see characters that are taking cover under that overpass who are blown out from under the overpass, in the movie it shows them being sucked out of the overpass. It's really more the wind is blowing horizontally. That's because the winds may be stronger. They may be channeled and actually are stronger under that wedge of the overpass. And plus in the movie, they're climbing up. They have to climb up this ramp to get under the overpass. Anytime you're going up, you're going in the wrong direction. If you're trying to protect yourself from a tornado, you need to go down. And also in the bottom right-hand image, it shows another reason why overpasses and bridges are dangerous. Winds close to the ground, there's a stronger horizontal component. So when we see the characters in the movie under the overpass, what happens to them, that's not really suction. It's not really accurate how things really would happen. There is suction going on in a tornado, but all the people that are sucked up by the tornado in the movie, that's not usually how it really happens. The winds are more horizontal at ground level. So it would be more realistic to say they were blown out from under the overpass. So I hope that makes sense. So let's look at it another way. Why are overpasses dangerous? Why are they bad tornado shelters? Well, number one, you're outside, you're exposed. So there's flying debris. There are missiles in the air flowing, and sometimes debris can actually collect under the overpasses. One of the characters who suffers her fate as she's trying to take cover under the overpass is hit by a large piece of flying debris. That's very realistic. That's probably how things would happen like that in real life if you were under an overpass in a big tornado. We talked about the wind channeling under the overpass. We talked about if you're going up, if you're trying to climb up that slope to get up under the bridge there, you're actually getting into higher winds the further you go up. Most overpasses probably don't have girders, or they probably don't have an area where you could crawl up. In the movie, Kate is actually able to crawl into a recessed area and hold on, and that's really the only reason she's able to make it out. But a lot of overpasses, like the one in the image on the bottom right side of the screen there, there's nowhere for you to go. If you're under that overpass, you are exposed. There's nothing to hold on to, nothing to protect you at all. You're in much worse shape there than you would be maybe somewhere else. And then you also have a change in direction. You may think you're sheltering from the tornado in such a way to protect you, but then the wind's going to shift as the vortex passes by. Let's see. Let me see if there's any overpass questions here before we go. 1991 in Butler County. Yeah, there's several reasons why people think overpasses is safe. There's a video from 1991 that shows people taking cover under an overpass where a tornado grazed them. A tornado passed by to the side. It did not directly hit them. So yeah, there's lots of reasons for misconceptions. To me, in my opinion, the bigger danger with overpasses is when people do this. People are using them as hail shelters or rain shelters. It's common every time we get hail in the Oklahoma City metro area or other metro areas, people decide they're going to stop their car selfishly and park under an overpass and then block the road. This is a common sight where people will just completely block the highway. They're preventing other people from getting to a real safe shelter. They're blocking the flow of emergency vehicles. They're trapping people against their will out in a storm. So this is, to me, the bigger danger of overpasses. It's not people dying because they're sheltering from a tornado. It's because one day there's going to be a catastrophic traffic accident where an 18-wheeler plows into the back of a bunch of cars because people stopped in the middle of the road, blocking the road to take cover under an overpass. So that's my 2 cents on that. Okay, so the overpass chase, the scene in the movie that we see from the very beginning of the movie to when we see the aftermath of the overpass, it's a movie dramatization of a storm chase, but I think there's some important lessons that we can think about and some real life lessons we can think about from this overpass chase. First of all, if you watch the movie, this should show you how dangerous chasing is, even if you're an experienced chaser. And in this case, they had 4 people in a vehicle, and they had one person who stayed outside the storm, who was looking at live radar data, who was in constant radio communication with them and was giving them a blow-by-blow description of everything that was going on, where the storm was and what it was doing, and they still got in trouble. On May 31st of 2013, we had 3 expert, experienced storm researchers who died in a tornado near El Reno. It was the same kind of situation. They were experienced, they had data support, they knew what they were doing, and they were still overwhelmed by a tornado that turned and grew and expanded very quickly before they knew how to react to it. So this is real life. I mean, chasing is dangerous. The most dangerous part of chasing is driving. We talked about that earlier. Their vehicle hydroplanes and then they become trapped. They couldn't escape from the tornado if they wanted to at that point. The storm in the movie evolves very rapidly. It's a storm. It becomes stronger and larger than anticipated. So they're expecting maybe not much of an intense tornado, but the tornado quickly expands in size and becomes larger and much stronger, eventually getting maybe into that EF5 category. As is often the case with tornadoes, they're not always visible and very picturesque like some of the tornadoes in the movie. This one is very realistic in that it becomes rain wrapped. It becomes hidden from view in the rain. So as they're trying to, they can't even tell for sure where the tornado is because they can't see it very well. And as they go through the chase, and as you see them driving in the heavy rain, and then it becomes apparent that that's getting bigger than they thought, you can see the tough decisions that they're having to make. They're having to decide second by second what to do. So I've been on storm chases before, nothing this dramatic, but it's that sense of it's happening very quickly and sometimes too quickly for you to make decisions. So if you've been in a situation like that and you watch the movie, you can kind of feel for them as they're going through that. So then there's decisions about early on, do they keep driving? Do they stop? Are they supposed to, what are they supposed to do? And then it becomes the point where they have hydroplaned, they're stalled, they can't do anything. The tornado is there. What do they do? Do they stay in the vehicle? Do they try to find a ditch? Do they get under the overpass? They make a decision to get under the overpass, but that's a fateful decision. Would they have survived if they had stayed in the vehicle or found a ditch? We don't know. But this is all real life. This is movie, but this was a very realistic part of the movie to me in that it captured how overwhelming a storm can become, how confusing it can become very quickly, and how dangerous it can become before you really even know what you're in for. The picture there, if that's what somebody asked, if this is a picture from a real tornado, the damage track, that's a movie damage track, so that's completely computer generated. It's overlaid on the actual overpass where they shot that scene, but it's all computer generated there. Looks very realistic. Okay, so what do you do if you're on the road? The main question I get when I do talks about tornado safety is, what do I do if I'm in my car and there's a tornado? The answer is, don't be in your car if there are tornadoes. If you are in your car anywhere near a tornado, you have put yourself in an unusual amount of danger with very little option for safety at that point. Vehicles are one of the most dangerous places to be in or near a tornado. This is one of the most dramatic tornado pictures I've seen. This is from May 20th, 2013 in the city of Moore, a large tornado, debris raining down everywhere, and vehicles on the roadway. This is the last place in the world that you want to be. Your best option is to pay attention. Look at radar data, pay attention, don't drive. If there are storms in the way, if there are storms in the area, wait, let them pass. Give it a few minutes and don't drive into storms. If you're on the road and encounter a storm, get off the road and find shelter if you can. Find a sturdy shelter, get off the interstate, get off the turnpike, get off the highway. Find a sturdy building if you possibly can to take shelter in. You do not want to shelter in your car in a tornado. If you're caught in a situation like they were caught in the movie, and you have to decide if I'm going to go to a ditch, an overpass, or stay in the car, those are all bad options. I can't tell you which one to do. You're having to choose the least bad from a set of bad options. So Addie and Praveen and Jeb may have survived had they stayed in the vehicle. It rolled if they had put their seatbelts on and left the engine running so the airbags deployed. Maybe they would have survived if they'd stay in the vehicle. Maybe if the overpass had been a little bit different or oriented differently, they would have survived. The point is, you don't want to be caught in this situation and have to make that decision. That's a horrible decision to have to make. So don't be caught in that situation. Okay, let me pause here and just scan questions really quick. We are going to talk about taming a tornado. An EF5 tornado would not have destroyed the bridge. That's the bridge would still be there, and an EF5 would not destroy that bridge probably. Let's see. I'm just scanning, not answering them all. The open house event I talked about is the National Weather Festival, Saturday, October 26th in Norman. Just Google National Weather Festival. And I'll try to show you the webpage here in the end. Somebody asked, why are culverts bad to hide in? A culvert may be bad to hide in. I mean, on May 31st of 2013, we talk about the storm chasers that died in the tornado. We had 13 people that died taking cover in storm drainage areas, culverts from the tornado. They died from flash flooding. Anytime you're in a low spot and there's a severe thunderstorm, there may be a lot of heavy rain. People have drowned taking cover in ditches and culverts from tornadoes. So that's one of the dangers. Oftentimes, ditches and culverts can become deposit areas for debris. So I've done damage surveys before, and I found that debris just piled up under these culverts or in these ditches. So that can be a problem as well. Okay. In the movie, we have a couple of different situations where people are forced to make decisions about where to shelter. It's not just the overpass scene, but there are scenes at the rodeo and there are scenes in El Reno where people have to decide where they're going to take shelter from the tornado. And it's not always apparent where you should take shelter from a tornado. So I want to talk about those scenes. I want to talk about the concept of situational vulnerability. We can be vulnerable to tornadoes in our homes. If we live in a mobile home, we're more vulnerable to a tornado than we are if we're in a well-constructed home, not a non-mobile home. But you can be more vulnerable even if you're prepared, even if you have a tornado safety kit in your house and your family knows the plan. You're instantly more vulnerable if you are in an unfamiliar place, if you are away from home. So the people in this scene, this is an aerial scene from the movie that's showing the people at the farmer's market in downtown El Reno. There's really a trolley there like that. There's really that movie theater there. These people are more vulnerable in this spot because they're outside and they're in an unfamiliar area. And when we're in a situation like this, we often rely on someone else to alert us to danger and to tell us what to do. So most people, if they want to go to the farmer's market, whatever day this was in the movie, they're going to the farmer's market. Maybe they didn't pay any attention to the weather. They had no idea that storms were even possible, much less an EF5 tornado. And again, this is one of the more unrealistic parts of the movie where these people would be caught that unaware of this situation, but we just have to let it go for the movie. But you're in this situation and you may think that somebody's going to come tap you on the shoulder and tell you what to do if there's a tornado coming. It's interesting in the movie to see what happens at the rodeo. In the rodeo, as soon as people's cell phones go off, and as soon as the outdoor warning sirens start to go off, the rodeo announcer gets on the microphone and says, we have been notified of a tornado touchdown in this area. We need to evacuate this arena right now. He says it twice. And that's the closed captioning where he's saying it the second time. And everybody is starting to do that. That's all the information these people at the rodeo get. They just say evacuate the arena. Nobody tells them where to go. Is there a shelter area nearby? Should they go to their cars? I mean, a lot of times people are in a situation like this at a concert, at a football game, at whatever, and you're just assuming that somebody's going to take care of you. And that's really not the case. You are always responsible for your own safety. Don't assume somebody's going to come tap you on the shoulder or grab you by the hand and say, there's a tornado coming. Let me show you where to go to be safe. You have to assume that on your own. You have to know what you're going to do. Don't wait for someone to tell you to evacuate or to shelter, and don't expect someone to be able to guide you to the safest location. In this case, there were two people there, apparently Kate and Tyler, who were attending the rodeo that knew something about tornado safety. So again, very unrealistic, but gotta let it go. And they had to help people know where to go. And a lot of these people were on their own and freaking out and getting in the cars and driving away and things like that. That would not really be what it would be like on such a widespread scale as you see in the movie here. So the situational vulnerability is something very important to think about. And one of the most important points, I think, is just to remember it's up to you to be safe. Nobody is responsible for your safety but you. So if you're at a rodeo in May in Oklahoma and there's a chance of storms, you better be thinking about what you're going to do, how you're going to get a warning, what you're going to do if a warning comes out, how long it's going to take you to get to your car if there's lightning. That's all on you. That's nobody else's responsibility but yours. So when we're taking cover from a tornado, the number one danger in a tornado is not being sucked up by a vacuum cleaner hose like tornado. It is the flying and falling debris. It is the things hitting you and falling on you, flying through the air. It's not, again, being lifted out of a swimming pool by a tornado. It's the things falling into the swimming pool that are going to hurt you and kill you in a tornado. The three main concepts of tornado safety to remember are to get in, get down, cover up. Get as far inside a sturdy structure as you can, get as low as you can, and then cover up. If you're at home, that might mean, you're going to want to avoid outside walls, doors, windows. You're going to find the smallest room in the middle of the house with as many walls between you and the outside as you can. That's at home. What do you do at the rodeo? What do you do if you're at the movie theater? What do you do if at the farmer's market and these crazy storm chasers come screaming at you that we have to get everybody into the movie theater? What then? How do you shelter then? Just remember that wherever you are sheltering, your location relative to the outside is more important than whether you're in a closet, a hallway, a bathroom, or a bathtub. Some people say, I'm getting in the bathtub. The bathtub is a magically safe place from a tornado. There's nothing magically safe about a bathtub or a bathroom. If your bathtub and bathroom are a small room in the middle of the house with lots of walls between you and the outside, that might be a good spot to go. If your bathtub is on an outside wall with windows or skylights, that's a bad place to go. So don't think about the closet, hallway, bathroom, or bathtub. Think about, I need to get as many barriers between me and the outside as I can. Cover up to protect things from falling on you. And just like in the movie, one of the things that's not unrealistic about the movie is people survived EF4 and EF5 tornadoes not in a below ground shelter. They survived, and that happens in real life. You can survive an EF5 tornado above ground. This business of you're going to die if you're not below ground is just not accurate. And that creates a hopeless feeling among some people. And we want people to know that you have to do the best you can with what you have. So in real life, your goal is to protect yourself from things flying on you or flying and falling on you, not from being sucked up by the tornado. Every situation is different. I could sit here for 3 hours and give you scenarios of what do I do here or what do I do there, but you just need to remember, get in, get down, cover up, and your situation is going to be very different. Pick the best shelter from what you have available. And one of my friends has a saying that she likes to remind me of all the time: don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Just because you don't have an underground shelter doesn't mean you can't do something to protect yourself from a tornado. Just because it's not the perfect shelter doesn't mean it's not good enough. Most of the time it's going to be good enough. So in the movie, the swimming pool, people have asked me, could you really survive an EF4 tornado in a swimming pool? Well, you have to consider, okay, let's think of Kate and Tyler, and they rescued this mom and little girl. The mom and little girl were going to be in a car until they said, no, you're not safe in there, come with us. And Kate has the idea to go get in the swimming pool. I had never thought about getting in a swimming pool before in a tornado, but let's think about their options. What were their options? One option was to drive away. We saw one couple do that and it didn't work out for them. Run away somewhere else. Do you just stay outside at the rodeo? Or do you try to find an interior small room in that hotel that doesn't look like it was pretty or very well constructed? What are you going to do? Was this the best option for them in this situation? Maybe. The good thing about a swimming pool is you're below ground level. If this pool had a deep end, so they went down into the far deep end of the pool there. The bad thing about it is you've got this pool, they had something to hold on to. I don't think most pools really would have that. This pool did not exist before the movie, by the way. They built this pool for the movie and then filled the ground back in when they were done. So this is a fake movie pool. But again, would you do that? The problem with being exposed in the pool is you got nothing to hold on to, and you've got nothing covering you up at all. So it's similar to a ditch, really. This is similar to a ditch. So if you're going to get in a ditch, a swimming pool may not be that much difference, but you have to consider your circumstances. I might have stayed in the motel and tried to find a bathroom interior somewhere in there, but I don't know. Again, your situation's going to be different. It worked for them, oddly enough, partially because that horse trailer fell and covered them up there toward the end, toward the last part of the tornado. But again, it's a movie, I know, but we can take real life lessons from it. What about the movie theater? We tell people do not shelter from a tornado in a room with a wide span roof. Don't go to auditoriums, gymnasiums. Movie theaters would count as that. So was the movie theater a good place to be? Well, to me, it's all about relative safety. The people that were exposed out at the farmer's market, they didn't have time to drive away from the tornado safely. Could they have gone to another business? Maybe, but was the movie theater, in my opinion, was better than being outside. The movie theater was not ideal. If I had been ushered into that movie theater like that, I would have been trying to find a bathroom or a smaller room, concession stand, something inside that movie theater that was not in the auditorium. Again, it had to be in the auditorium because that's where the dramatic ending of the movie happens. But in reality, you have to find the best shelter that you can. So these are two examples, again, Hollywood examples, but it hopefully gives us some things to think about in real life. You've got to find the best shelter area you can and work with what you have the best you can. All right, let's see. Let me stop here. We got, I see lots of questions and comments here. Okay, we talked about the pool. Let's see. Okay, we talked about the movie theater. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, this is a myth. Somebody asked, what if you're in a basement or shelter and it floods and you can't get out? I remember this happened in Moore in 2013. That did not happen in Moore in 2013. No one drowned in the tornado on May 20th, 2013. That was a false report. Not at all what happened. People have been in their storm shelters that have flooded before, but that did not happen on May 20th, 2013. We make our kids put on their ball helmets. Yes, if you have helmets or something to protect your head and upper body, that's good. Yeah, and again, from the May 2013 tornado, you never know what part of your home is going to be able to survive the tornado. You just have to do the best you can. Is it really a good idea to run away from a tornado? Generally speaking, no, but in some cases, that's your only option. If you live in a mobile home is not safe in a tornado. Hopefully you're not waiting until the warning is issued, but yeah, you need to think about that in advance. Let's see, can a tornado pop up without any advance notice? Yes, tornadoes happen sometimes without warning. Most of the time, those are the weaker variety of tornadoes, though. Okay, we'll move on here. And then we're kind of winding down toward the end here, so hopefully we'll get done. Okay, the main plot of the movie, spoiler alert, involves Kate's idea that you can somehow introduce a mixture of chemicals into a tornado to tame it, not to kill it, not to stop it, but to just dissipate it or tame it. And can that really happen? Can you really do that? Well, in the movie, they use sodium polyacrylate, and they use polymers, and they use silver iodide as a kind of a rain-making, cloud-seeding agent. All of this is based on real science. The science advisors, they had a special chemistry advisor for the movie who advised them on all this. This is not all that far-fetched. The actual chemicals, the actual overall scientific idea of this is not that far-fetched, but would it really work in real life? That's what we want to talk about. Let's think about a storm, first of all. Let's think about, we're talking about taming a tornado. That's Kate's idea, taming the tornado. If you're going to tame the tornado, what you really need to tame is the supercell. You need to tame the thunderstorm, not just the tornado. This is a picture of a tornado that hit Madill, Oklahoma a couple of springs ago. And you can see the tornado there at the bottom of the screen. If you look at the whole storm, look how tiny the part of the tornado touching the ground is compared to that giant storm. A supercell thunderstorm can be 5 to 10 miles across. It can also be 10 to 12 miles high. This is a massive machine, a massive mass of energy. There's an untold amount of energy in this supercell thunderstorm. If you're going to tame the tornado, what you're really going to need to do is tame the supercell. Taming the tornado itself is not going to be enough. You need to tame this whole storm. So when we're talking about that, we're talking about taming this entire massive mass of energy. As far as we know, there have been no actual attempts to do this. There's been no actual reputable research that's been done to do this. There's people that have talked about bombs and nuclear bombs and all kinds of crazy stuff. None of that has any real promise of dissipating a tornado for a variety of reasons. Like I said, the theory in the movie is based roughly on science in general, but the actual practice of it is not realistic. It's not practical. I think Tyler mentions it in the movie that if you were actually going to dump enough, you would need a silo full of these chemicals to dump it into the tornado to dissipate it. Some scientists, after the movie was released, actually did some calculations. They estimated that instead of 30 barrels of this mixture, you would need 20,000 tons of this mixture to actually do anything to the storm at all. And then there's all kinds of other issues with that, even if you were going to do that. Even if you could, what are the unintended consequences? Storms are there for a reason. A thunderstorm exists, a hurricane exists because there's too much heat down low and not enough heat up above. In a hurricane, there's too much heat near the equator and not enough heat up near the poles. So the hurricane is there to move some of that energy to the north. A thunderstorm is there to equal out the energy imbalance in the atmosphere. We don't know exactly what the purpose of the tornado is. It's not really there to fix an imbalance in the atmosphere necessarily. But the point is, the storm is there for a reason. It's if you do something to the storm, the energy has to go somewhere. So if you were to find some way where you could actually make the storm rain itself out, then think that's going to create wind coming out of the storm and rain coming out of the storm. We don't know what would happen. So the bottom line is there's no research being done on this or that has been done on this. And this is not something that's realistic in real life, to dissipate, tame, disrupt a tornado. This is the most science fiction-y thing in the whole movie. And it's a good plot point and it's interesting. And it is based on some science. The science advisors did work on this a lot in the script, and it's better in the final version than it was in the beginning. And but again, you can't really tame a tornado. Let's think back to some spotter training. If you've been to spotter training, you remember that we have different phases of a thunderstorm's life cycle. A thunderstorm is made of updrafts and downdrafts. The downdrafts is the cold, rainy air coming out of the storm. The updrafts are the fuel for the storm. So that's a diagram on the right. On the left, a picture of a real supercell thunderstorm on the right. There's an incredible amount of energy in there. These are updrafts of air moving straight up off the ground at over 100 miles an hour. The downdrafts coming down, that cold, rainy air. If you were to really dissipate a thunderstorm somehow rapidly, the downdraft is going to be so much larger than an ordinary thunderstorm. The damage from the downburst that would come out of that would be worse than any tornado probably that you were trying to dissipate. So again, just not a realistic scenario in real life. If you remember from, now some of the things they got right in the movie, they do when they're storm chasing, and there's a scene where they're cutting back and forth between Kate and Tyler. and they're both describing how a supercell works, and they're talking about updrafts. They're talking about mesocyclones and inflow. They talk about the cold pool. All of that is accurate terminology, and for the most part, they use it accurately in the movie. But this all, again, ties into dissipating a tornado. If you're going, the way tornadoes typically dissipate is when their fuel supply gets disrupted. Tyler tells Ben at one point in the movie, we're going to cut the fuel supply. That's the point of their project that they're trying to do. Well, the fuel supply typically gets cut when there's more cold air flowing out of the storm than there is warm air flowing into it. That's how that happens naturally. So in a supercell, you've got warm, moist air flowing into the storm and up into the updraft. Then you've got cold, rainy air coming down and forming that cold pool on the ground, the outflow. And as long as those are in balance, then that tornado can continue. So what they're talking about in the movie is making more of the blue arrows and fewer of the red arrows. In theory, if you're going to kill a tornado, that's how you kill it. You cut off the fuel supply. But the way they're talking about doing it in the movie is not practical or realistic. So, and another thing that might happen is if you were to somehow be able to actually kill or disrupt or dissipate or tame the tornado, what may happen is another tornado may develop somewhere else in the storm. This happens all the time. This is when we have a supercell that's going to produce a tornado. These are arrows representing air flowing along the ground. So we have the warm, moist inflow, those kind of pinkish shaded arrows. We have the enhanced inflow. That's where the warm air is really feeding up into where the tornado is developing there. And then you have the rain-cooled outflow. What typically happens is we'll get a tornado to develop, and at some point, the tornado, it gets cut off from its fuel supply. So when they talk in the movie of cutting the fuel supply, this happens with every tornado in real life. In this dissipating stage, the inflow, the warm air feeding the storm gets cut off. There's too much cold air flowing out of the storm, and then the tornado kind of dies back there in the rain. But what often happens if the conditions are right is we can get a second tornado develop. So if what they did in the movie was kill that one tornado, what might realistically happen, maybe, not realistically, but what could happen theoretically is you could get another tornado to develop. So again, we don't know how this would all work in real life, and I don't think it really would happen. All right, let's move on. Somebody just typed the question about twin tornadoes. We're winding down toward the end. I know we're going long, but hang in there with me. In the movie and in the trailer, one of the most quoted lines was when Boone yells, "We got twins," and he sees two tornadoes. And we get lots of questions, is that possible? Can you really get two tornadoes at one time? And the answer is yes, yes you can, definitely. There are many situations and several different ways where you can get multiple tornadoes occurring simultaneously. The main ways are you have a supercell. It's just the process I just described. You have a supercell that's produced a tornado. That tornado has died, and then another tornado develops just to the east or northeast of it. Sometimes those tornadoes can be there together at the same time. You can have tornadoes rotating in opposite directions going on at the same time. You can have a main tornado with a satellite, smaller tornado separate from the main tornado. And sometimes you can have two separate storms producing tornadoes close together. So this is an example where you have a supercell that's producing a family of tornadoes. On the left is the dying tornado. It is becoming thin and in that rope stage and dying. And on the right is the new tornado. So we have two tornadoes going on there at the same time. This is an example from El Reno back in 2006, where we had the cyclonic tornado, which is the way that most tornadoes rotate here in the Northern Hemisphere. And then you have an anticyclonic tornado that develops south of that. So in this example, we have a tornado rotating clockwise next to a tornado rotating counterclockwise. Again, twin tornadoes going on at the same time. Here's another case where you have the primary tornado on the left side of the screen with a satellite tornado. It's a tornado that's just rotating around the big one. And in the movie, the Dexter, the character Dexter, who's driving the RV with Danny, he uses the word Fujiwara effect. He gets, she's annoyed with him, but he has to figure out what the term for that is. Fujiwara effect was used correctly in the movie. It's when like a tornado rotates around another tornado, or a hurricane rotates around another. And you would see that with these satellite tornadoes. The satellite tornado may rotate around behind the primary tornado and sometimes even kind of be ingested into that primary tornado. Now, one of the things that gets misused a lot is sometimes people will report, I've got 3 tornadoes. Well, in this case, we're looking at actually one tornado with embedded smaller tornadoes inside it. We call this a multiple vortex tornado. So in reality, if we zoomed out on this, this would look like one big tornado. So you've got actual multiple small vortices inside one big tornado. So this wouldn't technically be multiple tornadoes. It would be multiple small funnels within a single tornado. Okay, can there be a fire tornado? The fire tornado was a little it was kind of anticlimactic in the movie. They made a big deal out of it in the trailer, but it wasn't really that big of a deal in the movie. We don't have any known cases of a tornado like hitting an oil gas refinery and becoming engulfed in fire like we see in the movie. But what we see all the time are these fire-generated fire whirls in and around wildfires. We see this in Oklahoma, California, wherever there are wildfires. They kind of don't last very long. They're like a little dust devil in a fire, and they're not connected to the storm above it, so they're not technically a tornado. But if you get a big wildfire generating a lot of heat, it can generate its own thunderstorm. And these are called pyrocumulonimbus clouds. And these can have lightning, gusty winds, hail. This is a legitimate thunderstorm that would not have been there had it not been for this giant wildfire. And one of the most dramatic examples of a fire tornado happened with one of these huge wildfires, the Carr wildfire in July of 2018 in California. This produced a legitimate tornado. This was not just a little fire whirl or a little temporary, thing that was there for 3 seconds. This was a supercell that was caused by the wildfire. This was an EF3 tornado that was caused by this supercell generated by the wildfire. It killed a firefighter, overturned a fire truck. So they can happen, but we've never seen an instance like in the movie where it hits a oil or gas refinery. And in the movie, they kind of implied that the oil or gas refinery, the heat from that somehow enhanced the tornado. That's not something either that we really see in real life. Okay, so winding down, let's talk about storm spotters, because storm spotters are really so important to what we do. Weather Service meteorologists, of course, use radar to help us detect tornadoes, but we still rely heavily, 100%, on people to tell us. There is no technology that exists, and I don't care what app you have, what website you're on, I don't care what TV station you're watching, there's no technology that can perfectly tell you for sure a tornado is happening and exactly where it's happening. We need people to tell us. So while radar may give us indications that a tornado is happening, and this is what a Weather Service meteorologist would be looking at in the office when we're issuing tornado warnings, we need to know what you see. So storm spotting is critical to the whole process, and storm chasers can be part of that storm spotting process. We have people here from all over the country, and storm spotter training is conducted by each local National Weather Service office around the country. If you take storm spotter training in Mobile, Alabama, it's going to be different than in Norman, Oklahoma, or Bangor, Maine, or Seattle, Washington. It's geared toward local hazards. Each office may offer live in-person classes or online classes. And if you want to become a part of an official storm spotter network, that's organized at the local level. So you need to contact your local National Weather Service office or your local emergency manager to see how they organize their spotter network. Weather.gov/Skywarn is the website to find out more about that. There is online training available. If you Google Skywarn training and the word COMET, C-O-M-E-T, They are an organization that we work with closely to provide training to meteorologists and non-meteorologists. So there are 2 modules that you can take online. It'll take you about an hour, hour and a half to complete these. The role of the Skywarn Spotter module and the Skywarn Spotter Convective Basics. You can take that online and get lots of good information on being a storm spotter. Here's some other resources. I'm going to leave this up here while we kind of talk to the end of the program. There's all kinds of other resources. If you want to learn more about storm chasing, there's some great things out there. There is a National Storm Chaser Summit that's held every year. In 2025, it's going to be held in the wintertime in Kansas City. It's chasersummit.org. You can go learn more about that. There is a decades-old website called Storm Track, where storm chasers hang out, and there's educational material there. Storm chasers can talk to new people about storm chasing, storm spotting, radar, all kinds of things. That's a great place to learn. There's a group called Spotter Network. This is a good group to get involved in if you're interested in being a storm spotter or storm chaser. This gives you a good, convenient, fast way to report information directly to the National Weather Service. There's an awesome group of individuals out there called Girls Who Chase. And you don't have to be a girl to take advantage of this, but they do an amazing spring training event every year. If you want a comprehensive training session on how to be a storm chaser, a storm spotter, girlswhochase.com, go there and look up their spring training information. And also National Weather Service offices around the country have their own storm spotter training websites. If you go to our YouTube channel, NWS Norman Spotter Training Videos, there's a whole playlist there of videos, both advanced and basic, about all kinds of things. You can find videos of complete 2-hour-long storm spotter training sessions if you want to participate in those. So just to let you know. Okay, I want to acknowledge people that have helped with this, not just with this presentation, but have been a part of this whole journey that we've taken with the Twisters movie. My boss, Mark Fox, has been 100% supportive of everything that we've done. The whole forecast office team has put up with a lot of visits and things going on related to the movie, so we appreciate them. The team here at the Severe Storms Lab, Kelly Purtle and James Fernan and Wes Moody, have been instrumental in making sure our involvement with the movie has been accurate, everything from providing props to helping produce videos and things like that. 2 of the main people who helped make the science in the movie as good as it was are Dr. Sean Waugh and Kevin Kelleher. Kevin Kelleher was their full-time weather consultant, who is a former deputy director here of the Severe Storms Lab. And then the actual safety of the people who were on the movie shoot, that's due in large part to meteorologist Joel Martin, who is the film's meteorologist, and Lacey Mackey. Lacey was the severe weather coordinator for the movie, and she helped develop all those plans to keep people safe, cast and crew, when they were out there shooting. So this was a big team effort. So I want to thank all those people. We've been involved in this movie off and on since last January. Still, it's kind of starting to wind down, but still going, and we've been honored to be a part of it. So, all right, that's all the presentation I have. It's a little bit late, but we appreciate you joining us. We are going to hopefully make this video available to you on YouTube, and we'll try to send out an announcement about that when we do. Yeah, and there's all kinds of questions and suggestions for other training, and we'll look through these questions here as people are signing off. We're done. So if you're done, if you want to sign off, go ahead. I'm gonna go through the questions here, and if anybody wants to hang on, I'll try to see if I can answer any more. We've skimmed through a lot of them here, and I can't answer all of them, but